Welcome or welcome back to the Lockwood Chronicles. My name is Larissa and today we're going back to school. Hello my friends. I know some of you are no longer in school or any higher education, but some of you are, and that is so exciting. My favorite season was back to school season. I was obsessed with office supplies, with school supplies, organizing, just the excitement for it, and I looked forward to it every single year. And now that I'm no longer in school, it makes me kind of sad, but I do not miss school whatsoever. But I miss like that feeling of a fresh start. However, there are a lot of things that I wish I would have known going into school, and like study techniques, finance stuff, just different tools that would have really helped me. And I want to provide those to you for like a little bit of a building block on productivity as well as study habits and all of that stuff and all the options that are available to you now. I feel like I am pretty seasoned in this because I did spend almost a decade in higher education. I did my undergrad. I have 2 bachelor's degrees with 2 minors, and I was there for 6 years. And then I did my doctorate for chiropractic, and that was 3.5 years of schooling for me. Almost a decade of higher education. And like I said, I wish there was a lot of things that I would have known before going into it. I feel like I've always been very, very good at school. I've been very fortunate for that. The only time I really struggled was in grad school because it was a completely different way of learning for me. A lot of both of my majors back in undergrad, a lot of papers and a lot of research, whereas my grad school was more memorization, just very overwhelming. So I had to completely shift the way I studied. I definitely would have done better if I would have known a lot of this stuff sooner, and it would have benefited me in undergrad as well. Let's just get into it. Let's start off with just some basic stuff, some like essentials that you will most likely need. My tried and true staple is always going to be the physical supplies, which I love a binder with loose leaf paper and dividers, because I am able to use probably one binder for all subjects most likely, and with the dividers it divides all the classes up, and that's what I used. And I could just like make quick notes and put them into the divider. I also had like my laptop, which I would use to take notes too, but sometimes I did need like a physical paper pen. Like that's how my brain works, is I do really well with physical paper to pen and then transferring it mainly over to digital. But yes, the whole loose leaf paper dividers, so great, so lovely, as well as any like handouts that you get, such as your syllabi, that goes in there too, and that way you can quickly refer to that as well. And that just like stayed in my backpack, was always with me, as well as like doing research or anything, again, writing down tidbits of information of other things as well. Super useful. So I would recommend getting like a notebook, but preferably I prefer the binder with the loose leaf paper. It comes in way more handy. You don't waste as much paper because I mean, like a notebook, you can't separate stuff. Notebooks are great, but not for the purpose that I use them. I would recommend a binder with loose leaf paper, and they're so cheap. And like you can also just go to like a thrift store. They have tons of them, or just like ask any adult or college student. They don't throw them out. They just pile them up and they're like, what do I do with this? So that's an option as well. Next is get yourself a planner. Oh my gosh. All right. So some planner recommendations that I recommend is Erin Condren. That's what I have right now. This is just the focus planner. So it's very, very basic because I don't need much currently because I'm not in school anymore. I did use their more in-depth like life planner, which was super helpful in grad school. Like I wrote down everything. I have also used Inkwell Press, and they are also really great because they do goals, and like there's just tons of stuff. Like I love their planners. I love the in-depth planners. Productivity Method by Grace Beverly has also had a lot of positive reviews and would have been something I would have gotten if I was a student. However, they only do releases every once in a while, so just be aware of that. But I would recommend some sort of planner. I just like the aesthetics and the vibe, and like I really did well with Erin Condren as well as Inkwell Press. Like I just love the aesthetics of them, and there's so many choices that I could personalize it. Their life planners are way more in-depth, a lot thicker, and a lot more useful for notes and keeping track of. But the focus planner is just a quick overview, which is great. So if you're wanting something thinner and more travel friendly, that would be a good option. I love these pastel like Bic highlighters. I am a highlighter girly. I love to like just highlight the crap out of my notes, and I will also go through like digital, but like for pen to paper, these are great. I also use like a coded system in my planners too, of like what's an assignment, what's a test, what are important dates, what are meetings, and other just things. Some pens that I would recommend is the Sharpie S Gel. That is like my everyday favorite pen, as well as the Sharpie marker, but it's fine tip, so great. The next one, this is the biggest, the most useful thing that I ever got, and that was like for study purposes, was my whiteboard and whiteboard markers. Oh my gosh, this was the most useful. Like I said, memorization was a huge part of my grad school, and like we had to learn values and do a lot of charts and stuff, and the whiteboard came in so handy. Like I was able to map out different processes as well as different chart-like things and definitions and stuff like that. So I would make a chart and then just brain dump everything on there and fill it in as best as I could. Came in so handy for school. I'll try to find one on my iPad. We would be given values and numbers and everything, and I would do it on my iPad too, but there's something about, again, physically writing it out that makes it so much easier, and for memorization purposes too. For instance, this one is just like a printed out one and somebody scanned it in or like made a PDF. But this is the type of charts that we would have in school and all the information that we had to memorize. And so putting it like that and then writing it out on the board, super, super helpful. Also great for like learning definitions and all of that stuff. So that was major. Then the next up is flashcards. So you could either do these with physical flashcards, which is time consuming and can be costly and all that stuff, which again, there's something about physically writing it down that is very useful. I would recommend this for like smaller batches of things. The other flashcard software that I used too was Quizlet. And the best thing about Quizlet is you can like research any sort of, like just type it in, and somebody prior that went to school, took that class too, probably has already made one, or somebody from a similar major. And you can make your own flashcards too, which is so great, and you can share them with people. And oh my gosh, it was so great. My tutor in grad school, she had a bunch of them, and that helped me so much because that was so great. And that's another thing, utilize tutors. They're most likely free at your university, and if not, they're very cheap. But like most often, your university will provide you with a tutor or somebody that does tutoring sessions, and take advantage of those, especially if it's a class you're like struggling with. And even if you're not struggling, sometimes people that have already taken that class know what that professor emphasizes. Super beneficial to at least go into a couple tutoring sessions just to make sure you're grasping the information that needs to be relevant and prevalent in that subject. And that's like what my mistake was in a few of my classes, is I thought I was studying the material that I needed to study, and the professor focused on something completely different. And I did so crappy on that exam because I had studied the right material, but not enough of the right material. I did not emphasize the importance of what they were emphasizing, and that was just, I don't know what crossed there. Make sure you utilize your tutors while you have them, even if it's just to like make sure you're doing things right, and they're there for you. And I wish I would have utilized more of them and sooner. Most schools are digital now, so using computers, iPads, all of that. For note-taking apps, I primarily used Notability. It's super simple. GoodNotes is another popular one. They're very similar, but you can like divide into folders and binders and classes and like all of that stuff. I don't know if you can see with the glare. You can assign different colors to them and names, and then like there's also free PDF, free templates on there too. So like I have a to-do template. Again, I don't know if you're seeing that. You can also just make like a random blank template. I have mine on dark mode And then just select different pen colors, types, and then, woo, look at that, notes. And I have the iPad with an iPencil or Apple Pencil. This was super key. I wish I would have had this sooner because my grad school, we did a lot of drawing, more than I ever thought would be necessary in a chiropractic college. And I had a stylus and it was a piece of crap. And I wish I would have just gotten the Apple Pencil right away. It would have saved me so much time and would have helped me focus a lot better in school. But do with what you will. Find something compatible with yours that tracks very well and is really good. I also have Paperlike on my screen. It makes the screen a little bit more paper-esque, so when you're writing on it, it feels a little bit more like paper and not super smooth. Also, it helps save scratches on your screen, and it's easy to clean. It's also just like a little, like I said, a little bit more protectant on it. Definitely makes it easier to write. The pen tracks really well with it, so that's also a lovely no thing. Oh, and another piece of equipment that if you wanted to get, book stand. They are super cheap, but it folds out like this and also like can go up like that too. So then your book or whatever can sit right up like that, and it can hold your pages, and it is so useful. I love this thing, and there's different heights to it too. So again, you can use it for your iPad, you can use it for a book, you can use it for anything like that. It is so useful, and it folds up super flat like this. This thing, I still use it. I love it so much. I think it is so great. Also, like, less strain on your neck. You know, got to keep that spine in line. I would recommend that book stand. It is great. Obviously, there's more colors than just pink, but I wanted pink. Another organization thing that I did that was super useful is make a spreadsheet of some sort, a table, doesn't matter, of every single due date of every single class, of whether it's an assignment, a test, whatever, project, doesn't matter. When I did this, Notion wasn't a big thing for me yet. It like started cropping up at the end of my grad school journey. It wasn't as popularized as it is now. So I would just use Excel and like have a running list of exams, so that way I could like enter everything, change dates if I needed to. But I would recommend using Notion for that. And I mean, it's free, so why not? Because then you can add tags in there about which class this is for and the due date for it. And yeah, keep a running list of due dates in order of when they're coming up. That way you can see them, which is so great. And then you can mark it whether it's you haven't started it yet, it's in progress, or it's completely done, and then it can filter out everything that's been done, which is great. Oh, it comes in so handy if you just have like a digital platform of those, and then taking the stuff that you write in there and actually putting it in your physical planner is going to save you so much time, so much effort. And like, again, making sure that your planner, what I love about this planner too is most of them have them now, but they have little checklists and to-do list stuff too, which is so useful. That way you can write down like, hey, get this done this week, whatever. But you can also put the due dates in the actual week that they are. I would recommend doing that because stuff happens and you forget, and or you get your weeks mixed up. But for sure, putting it in like a Notion template spreadsheet thingy and keeping track of it that way, it will save you in the long run. And like most professors put them on the syllabi or in your portal that you use for your class to get your notes and everything. Also, like, again, going back to the tutors, if they're anything like my tutors, they have the digital notes, the PDF notes, that most of them will just transfer their notes to you so you can study off of those too. So that's always a big plus on that, is having somebody else's notes, again, to see what was emphasized and what they took away, and if they have different explanations for it. So that was super useful as well. Use your tutors, use your peers. It's great. This is so much. Another thing that you can get is an external hard drive or a thumb drive of some sort, just to back up all of your work. I have had the thing happen where your computer breaks right before a deadline happens, and it is so scary. Thankfully, I don't think I've ever lost any major work from it, but I've always backed up my important things on a thumb drive or a hard drive. So I would recommend getting those and just save things in multiple areas and like back it up weekly, if not daily, but you definitely back it up, because it sucks when you have a huge project and then it's all gone and you have to cry and either take an F, or if your professor is nice, they'll let you have an extension on it, but sometimes that's not always the case. Study habits. Oh my gosh, this is a big one. For study habits, I wish I would have known about the Pomodoro technique way before I did. It is a style of studying where you do 25 minutes of hard work, like focused work, and then take a 5 to 10 minute break. Get up, get a drink of water, go to the bathroom, eat a snack, that kind of thing. And then you repeat that and you do 4 cycles of those. And after 4 cycles, you take a longer break for 20 to 30 minutes. Take a nap, go for a walk, touch some grass. Doesn't matter. Just don't look at anything anymore. And then you repeat it again and again. I typically would do 4 to 5 full cycles if it was a really big study day. Typically, yeah, 4 to 5 is like the max that you should brain power do of those 4 mini sets, if you know what I mean. Such a game changer. I would break up and block out a certain amount of time for different subjects if I had like tests coming up, or if I was like making note cards, I would make note cards for like 25 minutes or whatever, and then after that 25 minutes was done, I would study those note cards that I had made. Yeah, you can even use like your first Pomodoro as like a game planning session of how many cycles you're going to do for each subject, such as like you'll dedicate a certain amount of time to anatomy, a certain amount of time to math. It really is such a game changer, and like I remembered so much more and studying was so much more effective when I used this method. 10 out of 10 would recommend the Pomodoro method. It's so great. And you can do it like for writing too, whether you have a paper that you need to write. So the first would just be to like review whatever you're doing and like kind of map out the plan for your paper. Any resources that you currently have. Then the second would be to gather more research. And then the third could be to like write the introduction and any follow-up paragraphs through there. And then the last would be like to proofread what you had or write the conclusion or whatever. Going off of that, if you do have a paper that you are writing, write the paper and then leave it for a day. Like you can review it once, see if there's anything that needs, but before you turned it in, give yourself an extra day to review it again, see if there's any errors again. Cause like sometimes you just need to step away from it and come back and like clarify some things after your brain hasn't been working on it for so long. Also, very important, know what kind of studier you are. Are you a person that studies better in a group, as a group, or completely alone? I am the isolation, completely alone, nobody talk to me, because I am extremely extroverted. And if I end up studying with people, I end up wanting to just talk and goof around the entire time. And all of my friends know this about me. So when I would have study sessions with people, I would be like, hey, I love you guys so much so that if I sit here, I will distract us all and we will get nothing done. I'm going to sit myself at a different table completely with headphones on. Please do not come and sit with me. I would have like study nights with my friends at a different table in the corner all alone. Also, like study rooms are really useful in libraries and stuff at your school's library. Super useful. You can block out an hour or a couple hours worth of time there, and that way it's an undistracted area. You can close the door and just focus. Some other things that are useful as well is noise canceling headphones. Mine have been through the ringer. I need to get some other ones. I use these all the time still, and when I was in school, super useful. These are noise canceling. I put them on and turn them on and like it would cancel the noise, but then I would end up putting like some instrumental music on or some white noise on. My instrumental had to be like piano songs I didn't know, no words ever, and white noise, just like either white noise or brown noise That typically was really good for me. And then speaking of environment, where do you feel like you study best? Is it at a coffee shop, at like your school's cafeteria, or MSC, like multi-service center, student center, like the student center, that's what I'm trying to say. Or is it the library? Is it your bedroom? I will caution about people studying in their bedrooms and in their bed specifically. It does throw off like your sleep patterns because your bed should just be used for sleep. And that way your melatonin spikes when it needs to, but to each their own. If you study best in your bed, who am I to say no way, Jose? But as an insomniac, I was unable to stay productive while studying in my bed. I could sit on the floor just fine in a beanbag chair, but I tried to separate my spaces of studying. Also, like if you are studying from home, make sure that your space is clutter-free and that you don't have other pressing tasks to do at that time. Also, I was to the point where if I studied at home, I'm like, wow, my bed looks like I need to be napping in it. So I would just take a lot of naps. It was so unproductive. I just love a good nap. And that's fine. You know, the Pomodoro method, again, helped me because I was like, ooh, in 4 of these cycles, I get to take a 20 to 30 minute nap, and I'm here for that. So that was useful. But I did really well sitting at the library or like a student center of some sort. Yeah, figure out where you study best and go from there. Find, like, make it a whole thing. Fill up your water, get a snack that's not noisy if you're in the library, like a nice little fruit strip or something quiet. If you're gonna be doing an all-day study session, pack a lunch. Pack a lot of snacks, pack a lot of like beverages, water, whatever you need to, or have that available. But if you're on a baller on a budget, then yeah, definitely pack your own lunch or something. Because like the last thing you want to be doing is studying when you're so ravenously hungry that you can't focus. Editing Larissa here, I completely forgot a couple things. When you are taking a test, this is so useful. Whether it's multiple choice or you have to write out questions or whatever, not questions, answers. Select like every 5 or 10 questions and then go back and review those and continue doing that. So group them together in a certain amount. I always chose 10 because it was easy, or like even the page. Select every like 10 questions, go through them, like star anything that you're having trouble with or whatever, and then go on to the next one. And then after those 10 question blocks, go back and review those, make sure that you did everything right. That way you can read the questions with a fresh mind and a fresh eye and see if you made any mistakes. This saved me so much on my board exams because it's overwhelming, especially when you have those really, really long exams like board exams that are 100+ questions per block. Your mind just gets tired. So going back every 10, make sure that you are looking at them with a fresh eye and perspective, as well as like it's not so draining when you get to the end of the exam and then have to go through all of them again. This way, you go through 10, you don't have to look at them ever again. And you go to the next 10, you don't have to look at them ever again. As you finish the test, you're done. And it takes so much less time than you would think. That is super useful. And I wish I would have known that a lot sooner because I have a lot of test anxiety. Yeah, so like going back and reviewing, I would just get in like loops, like a mind loop of how to get past stuff. And this way I was able to like move on and not worry about it and not also panic about all the ones that I had started previously. Because once I was done with it, I was done with it and hands off, and I just moved on. The next tip I have for tests is remember the whiteboard practice that we did with all the charting. If you especially have a lot of memorization stuff and a lot of charts to do, brain dump those. If your professor doesn't provide you with a sheet of paper to like take notes and brain dump, maybe ask about it or have hopefully some sort of way that you can write and solve things out. But if they give you some paper to utilize before the test, like a blank sheet, brain dump as much as you can prior to that and then get right to the exam. Especially if it's like equations or again, charts, values, definitions, any of that stuff. That way it's out there. You don't have to think about it because it's already on the paper, and you don't have to, when you get to a question that has that, you already have it written down. You don't have to like think back and get confused with other things that were on prior to the test or any other equations or other charts or anything. You already have it written down, especially if you use the whiteboard, and if you have a method for the whiteboard and like a chart that you filled the chart in every single time the same way, comes as muscle memory to you when you write it down. This is not school related, but something I wish I would have known so much sooner. Financial advice here. I'm not a financial professional, so do with it what you will. But something I wish I would have done sooner, especially in undergrad, because things are so cheap when you're a student. There are so many discounts, there are so many opportunities for you that I could have taken advantage of that I did not, and I'm so mad about it. As well as, like, you're most likely living with roommates at this point, so rent is super cheap for you, which is great, which gives you the opportunity to save a ton of money at this point. Whether you have an on-campus job, like even for a couple hours there, you can work at a desk somewhere, you can be a note taker, you can be a tutor if you're one of those. I had so many on-campus jobs and they were all just like, just stand there and just be present and do whatever you want. I was a dorm desk person. So people would come out and check out DVDs or a vacuum or cleaning supplies or whatever. And that would just be me. And I would sit there all day, knitting, studying, getting stuff done. So super easy money. Save as much as humanly possible. Try to save 3 to 6 months worth of an emergency fund. Like, get your emergency fund padded and do some additional savings after that, especially if you want to take like a summer off after you graduate or some time off after you graduate, which I highly recommend. But make sure you have the finances available to do that. When I was going through undergrad, the only really available finance source about saving money and getting out of debt and stuff was Dave Ramsey, and I have a lot of qualms with him. And his advice was like, save $1,000 in an emergency fund. And then all the other baby steps. $1,000 is not enough. $1,000 is not nearly enough for an emergency. That has not been updated since the 90s, okay? No. Get 3 to 6 months. And think of like the salary that you want to have, or like a salary that your industry is going off of, and like match it with the amount of expenses that you need to have. And you know, overestimate, because life is expensive, and I did not realize that either getting out of college, how expensive life is to live. So overestimate abundantly and have about 3 to 6 months worth of an emergency fund in tow. Ideally, I would say that for most people it can be anywhere from like as low as 10,000, 15,000. I would recommend like 15 to 20,000 on the 3-month low end, and you know, anywhere for 30 plus to the 6-month. Just a suggestion, just so you have a target of what to get to for an emergency fund, because yeah, emergencies happen and they tend to be more expensive emergencies. Again, if you want to take some time off to travel, set aside another savings account. Like, again, put them in a high yield savings account. Ally has a great high yield savings account. There's other great high yield ones too, but I personally just use Ally. And just save it there. It's super easy to open an account there. So, and the interest rate is so great right now. There's such high, anyway, I'm very passionate about high yield savings accounts. And then yeah, just open another savings account and have some like additional stuff in there, like a travel fund, a like recreational fund, whatever you want to do. Just make sure that your finances are in order. I wish I would have had more resources available to me when I was going through, which brings me to the resource that I would like to provide to you. I did review this book after I read it, and that was Financial Feminist by Tori Dunlap. I think this is a really great starter's guide, all-encompassing guide for somebody just like trying to put together some sort of financial plan. And I think she does a really great job of mapping out steps to take, and as well as like identifying some of the issues, especially for females, that we encounter. But I think her map to claiming financial freedom as well as like independence and becoming a millionaire is great. It's just very applicable, as well as just so super helpful and very similar to what I do. And I track all my finances on a Google sheet, and I find that super useful because I like making Excel sheets for fun. I think this is a really great resource. You can also check out Ramit Sethi's I Will Teach You to Be Rich. Ramit Sethi, I Will Teach You to Be Rich. That is also something that came out as I was going through school, and I really liked it, and I think it's more applicable now that I'm out of school, but definitely something to check out too. So both of these really great financial starters. You're a student, things, you get discounts, super cheap, travel super cheap as a student, take advantage of all those things, but also like make sure that you give yourself the financial foot forward. It is also a great time to work on having a great credit score too. Again, making sure you're paying credit cards off in full every month. I pay mine off weekly just because I do not want to accidentally miss a payment. So if you're going to use a credit card, it is a great way to start getting a good credit history, which will be beneficial if you want to buy a house or buy a car or rent an apartment. They do have to do a credit check, so make sure that you do have a credit history that is good. Lastly, have fun. I regret, this is going to sound counterintuitive to the financial portion of this, I regret working so much and studying so much. Honestly, if you pass your classes, your GPA really doesn't matter, unless like you were wanting to go into a bigger profession or another school like I did, then it kind of matters. But if you're just planning on, you know, going right into the workforce after undergrad, like pass your classes, do well, try your best, but it doesn't need to be as much of a focus. Most employers do not care what your GPA was or what class you did well in and did not do well in. They do not care for the most part. I wish I wouldn't have been as serious or taken school as seriously, which sounds horrible, but there was just a lot of opportunities and bonding experience that I missed out on because I was either working, because I worked like 3 or 4 jobs at any given point, or that I was studying. Believe me, I did have fun. I went out, I had a good time, but I wish I would have done more of that and gone more places and been even more involved than I already was. I was very involved. It just sounds so weird. I wish I wouldn't have taken school as seriously as I did. Just do your best, but have fun. This is one of the only times you're going to be around this many people your age and able to make those connections and those bonds. And join clubs, just have a good time. Also, do your work, stay out of trouble. Right now, I'm sure I'm going to think of 1,000 other things that come to mind. That is like the essentials as of what I thought of now, and things I wish I would have known sooner when I was going through school. So hopefully one or all or some of these things help you in your school year, and I hope you get that A. Woo! With that being said, respect others, respect yourself, and do something amazing with your day. Thanks, bye!